I don't think that China has been controlling China. I've said this before. I think that it's been other influences, possibly the CIA. So I started looking into this, and really, the amount that that country's been put through, going back to the 1900s, is ridiculous. Multiple foreign powers occupied parts of China from the 19th to the early 20th centuries. After China's defeat in the Opium Wars, 1839 to 1842, and then 1856 to 1860, Britain, France, the US, Russia, Germany, and Japan forced China to sign unequal treaties, granting them control over ports, territories, and special concessions in cities like Shanghai. Japan occupied Taiwan and later Manchuria, while Russia invaded Manchuria in 1900. The Eighth Nation Alliance, Britain, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, Russia, the US, and Austria and Hungary, intervened during the Boxer Rebellion, leading to further foreign military presence and territorial concessions. These occupations and losses of sovereignty fueled strong nationalists and anti-foreign sentiment. China finally expelled foreign powers and ended their special privileges through a combination of war, diplomacy, and political change. The end of World War II, Japan, which had occupied large parts of China, they were the last to leave, was Japan. Large parts of China was defeated and forced to withdraw. Other foreign concessions, such as the international settlement in Shanghai and the legation quarter in Beijing. And it goes on. I mean, there's a whole bunch. I don't want to go on and on about it. But I was trying to find out when. So Japan was the last to leave there. But they still operated under like their government. But they had no control of their ports. They refer to it as the century of humiliation. And I'm just not sure. I mean, yeah, they say China rose up, and I'm sure they fought back. But my problem with China is I have such an issue, and I feel this way about North Korea too, that leaders of these countries would treat their people like they do. And so the other reason I started wondering about this is because how can they be more advanced with AI and technology? Well, their surveillance state went in 2010. Now, when Nixon went there, okay, because prior to that, because then Mao rose up, okay, and Mao, obviously, he was into the Marxist Leninists. I mean, Russia had influence with that. But, and so we didn't really have we had very, few relations with China because the U.S. didn't support Mao. But did we still have intelligence there? Were they still there? I know in the 1900s we didn't have the CIA and stuff. I'm just saying. Because it's almost like did the intelligence agencies, and maybe multiple intelligence agencies, I mean in multiple countries, were they using China as a test ground, surveillance-wise? I just find it hard to believe that leaders would want to treat their people like that. And the way it worked with this 8-nation system was that they operated, but they had little power. And yeah, it says that, eventually that the people rose up, but did they really defeat anything? I doubt it. I mean, it says that they all left. I have a hard time believing they did. And then it goes on to say here, they pushed everything, their cultural identity. I mean, everything from culture. They controlled their ports. They controlled their economy. That it's almost like whoever was the leader was just what was presented to them. Like, yeah, this is your. I think it was back then. It was the Qing dynasty. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that. And then you can understand, though, then why they would become isolationists. Because for so many years, up until Nixon went to, like, do trade and stuff with, bring them back, start having relations with them, they were isolationists. Yeah, I would have been too. But were they really? Or were they always under the influence of others? I mean, to call it the century of humiliation, it's... So, and then in order for Nixon to go, RCA, which was the first tech company to have relations with China, had to put this satellite, it was one of the first satellites in. So, I'm not saying that, they're innocent, but they became globally dominant in surveillance technology and mass surveillance infrastructure in the late 2010s. By 2017 to 19, China had the world's largest network of surveillance cameras, advanced facial recognition, and big data analytics, with over 400 million cameras deployed, more than any other country. Projects like Skynet and Sharp Eyes, along with the integration of AI and real-time data fusion, gave China unmatched capabilities in monitoring its population. By 2019, Chinese cities toppled global rankings for surveillance density, and China was exporting its surveillance tech worldwide. The reason, too, I say this is because the harshest things are done to their people. Like live organ harvesting. They have all the data on their people. Sounds more like something Silicon Valley would do than... I'm just being honest, okay? Which then you could understand why China hates America. But I don't think it's just the influence of America, likely Europe, Britain. I mean, I'm just saying, some intelligence agencies from the same people that go conquering everybody, okay? And if you think America's first on that list, no, you better look at France and Britain. But America was part of this 8-nation treaty. And so even though China was China, it was all broken up into sections. And I just wonder if the influence has always stayed there, because what leader would want to treat their own people so horribly? I'm not saying it's not possible. It's really going to... I think it's more that it's intelligence agencies, multiple, Britain's, U.S., Europe's, that have always been influencing and used China as a playground, a testing ground. Because otherwise it seems, it's hard for me to believe, common sense wise, that after forever being under the influence of so many other occupations, that they managed to be the best when it comes to technology and surveillance. No, I think the CIA was just playing games along with other intelligence agencies and using their people as experimentation.